Up next on Small Town Big Deal.
It's a battle of epic proportions.
Where are you from? I'm from the north.
That'll be easy. Yankees.
And later, I get to race a legend.
He's retired and I'm just about retired.
Welcome to Small Town Big Deal.
We've traveled across the country and firmly believe that the people in small towns are the hands that keep America strong.
So join us, Rodney Miller,
And Jan Carl.
as we show you the great things these people do on Small Town Big Deal. Welcome to Small Town Big Deal. I'm Rodney Miller.
And I'm Jan Carl. You know, compared to most countries in the world, we're still a pretty young nation.
But you know, we've had quite a history, and some of the toughest times came during the Civil War.
We're in Perryville, Kentucky, a town about an hour's drive southwest of Lexington. Population, 800.
It's a typical small, quiet town in central Kentucky, but more than 150 years ago, it was anything but that. October 8, 1862. The tiny farming town of Perryville was the site of the bloodiest Civil War battle in Kentucky.
Nearly 20,000 Union troops and 16,800 Confederates converged on the grassy knolls near Perryville.
By the end of the day's battle, 1,422 soldiers were killed and more than 5,500 were wounded.
The Confederates won a tactical victory at Perryville, but in the end, it was a strategic defeat.
And that's because they were so outnumbered by the Union forces, they were forced to retreat and soon had to evacuate the entire state.
Shoulder. Arms.
Every year, thousands of reenactors and history buffs become Union and Confederate soldiers to commemorate the anniversary of the battle that sealed the fate of Kentucky.
Joni, how did this battle put Perryville on the map?
Well, during the summer of 1862, the Confederate Army started on a five-front offensive that pretty much covered all of the Deep South, moving north. During the same time, the Western armies were moving into Kentucky because they wanted all the resources of Kentucky, specifically the men.
It's interesting to note that in this very important battle in Kentucky, there were soldiers from 21 different states.
At the conclusion of this battle, Bragg's army was turned back into Tennessee. So you have two massive defeats of two large Confederate armies within about 3 weeks of each other. And that gave Abraham Lincoln the go-ahead really to issue the Emancipation Proclamation.
The ultimate strategic Union victory helped ensure that the state of Kentucky stayed in the Union hands for the rest of the Civil War.
Why do you have such a passion for maintaining this history?
I feel very strongly about keeping this place alive. I had relatives that fought right here on this battlefield, the 20th Kentucky Infantry. This reenactment keeps it very tangible to these people and makes it worth something to them. Guys came out here and they gave their all, and if we forget that, we're doing ourselves and our country a disservice, and we don't need to do that.
Reenactors, both young and old, are very passionate about sharing their history to visitors of the battlefield. Rodney found out that Ryan Townsend is no exception.
Ryan, why do you do this?
Well, I've always had a love for history and everything, and considering I had ancestors who fought in the Civil War, I mean, it's just kind of second nature to me, I guess. Let's go down here and I'll show you a camp of what the typical soldier would have been living in, or what the actual camp might have looked like.
What do they call those guys that
The
run?
sutlers?
No, like guys that abandon the battle. What are they called?
Oh, deserters.
So do you have any deserters?
Not today, I hope.
Very nice. Arms. Into ranks. Right. Feet. March.
You know, Jan, it was pretty realistic because it had rained the night before, so guys were just throwing their tents down wherever they could find a dry spot. I mean, it was pretty disorganized.
So you think, kind of like during the Civil War, just find a spot and throw down.
Oh yeah, I mean, there were no comforts at home.
So I'm thinking not a lot of personal hygiene.
No, not at all.
My last shower was Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday. I was thinking maybe it might have been then, but I wasn't sure.
You won't find any modern day food in this camp. They eat like the soldiers did back in the day.
This here is a ration of bacon that we got.
So this was issued to you.
Yes.
So then, did you cook it this morning?
No.
You just eat it like that?
You just eat it like that? No frying pan? Nothing?
I've never eaten uncooked bacon before, but it's not bad.
Blech.
I can't believe these Yankees think they're going to come down here and take over this beautiful state.
The reenactors are starting to talk a little smack. I think that must mean it's time for battle.
Oh, that's us, boys. Let's go.
All right, company. Let's go, boys.
You know, I know this is just a reenactment, but you know, you can still feel the nerves and excitement in the air.
Italian right, fade. Forward, march.
Next up, the Battle of Perryville heats up.
Welcome back to Small Town Big Deal. It's still 1862, and we're at the scene of the largest battle the state of Kentucky saw during the Civil War.
And you know, reenactors didn't just play soldiers, they played civilians too. And I came across a group of refugees that were fleeing from the ravages of war.
So we figured we'd just set up camp here with the other folks and wait for the godless abolitionists to be driven from our land so we could get back on our own property.
What did you refer to the Union Army as?
Oh, that passel of godless abolitionists, see? Godless abolitionists who fondly cherish the memories of the wanton waste and desolation that their barbarous torches spread throughout our land.
So, would you say you're on the fence between the North and the South?
No, sir. I don't cotton much to Yankees, okay? No offense. Am I offending your sensibility?
No, you're not.
Being a border stater,
I'll just remind you that we won the war.
well,
So people are clearly passionate here and fully immersed in their roles. You know, they're passionate about music too, like James Clark.
James, what exactly is this instrument?
These are the Irish uilleann pipes, bagpipes native to Ireland. They've been around since early 1700s.
Can you play us something?
Sure, sure.
You know, women get into the act here too. Their war effort, trying to keep everybody fed.
So y'all are washing the breakfast dishes?
Yes, we are. We got a little bit of a late start this morning.
This is just the kitchen duty, so this is what you guys are here supporting all the troops.
And it will be time to start lunch here in a few minutes. So
Yep.
it's a never-ending job. By the time you get one meal cleaned, it's time to start the next.
Emily, why do you do this?
I got hooked on the costumes, but for me it became more important because I never liked history. I really didn't get into it. It just never grabbed me. But then once I got to interact in it, I became very involved and now I want to learn about it.
What I've always loved is that this is just another way to get people to see what it was like. I mean, history is boring for a lot of people because it's just names and dates. But when you look at a quilt that was, handmade, when you look at, dresses that were made by somebody, or you're out here and you see it.
You
then
see
it's
the weird
real.
ways they cook their food.
Which is different, they don't use a fire?
Well, no, they'll use the fire, but it's not by the turn of a dial.
You know, it seems like no matter what talents you may have, you could become part of a reenactment.
Yeah, like singing. You know, I bet you don't know what the most popular Union fighting song was.
But you don't either.
Yeah, I do. It's the battle cry of freedom.
yes, we'll rally round the flag, boys, rally once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom. We will rally from the hillsides, gather from the plains, shouting the battle cry of freedom.
You also learn about the die-hard and the not-so-die-hard reenactors.
Where are you spending the night tonight?
We're probably going back to the hotel.
Now that is my kind of reenactor. Go to a hotel and get a shower.
That's what we do. We're prima donnas like that.
Okay, so Rodney, where was your tent?
I think you know me better than that. I was roughing it back at the hotel.
Prima donna.
First call! Both sides are lining up, getting ready for battle.
I think I'd start to pray.
Let thy good angels have charge of us. With thy loving kindness defend us as with a shield. May Almighty God bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
The battle's getting ready to start. I got the Union to my right, the Confederates to my left. I'm kind of stuck in the middle with you.
In the Battle of Perryville, the Confederates were mostly from Mississippi and the Union soldiers mostly from Ohio.
At the end of the battle, 894 Union soldiers died and nearly 3,000 wounded. 532 Confederate soldiers died and more than 2,600 wounded. More Americans died in the Civil War than all other U.S. wars combined.
Although this is a reenactment and no one's getting hurt, I got a friendly reminder from Union General David Shackelford about the hallowed grounds we were standing on.
This is where the actual battle occurred, on this very land. Men died on this ground right here.
And it wasn't exactly a victory for either side.
It was not. It's not a Gettysburg type battle. It's not an overwhelming victory for either side. And the Union commander never even knew the battle occurred until it was over with.
The last cannon is fired. The battle is over. It's time to call it a day, but not without us all learning something.
Why'd you come today?
We brought these young men over to see the Civil War reenactment, show them a little bit of history.
I see that you walked right out of your shoes today.
Yes, I did.
So you blew a shoe.
I blew a shoe. I had a blowout today.
What'd you learn here today?
Oh, wow. A greater appreciation for what these guys went through.
The words "lest we forget" come to mind when reflecting on the battle fought here in 1862. That's the real reason we're here. Perryville, Kentucky is forever changed due to the sacrifices of these heroes that fought here.
Coming up next, meet a man who is saving former racehorses from being slaughtered. And some of his residents are pretty well known.
To me, having these famous horses here is almost like having Larry Bird and Michael Jordan in your yard.
Welcome back to Small Town Big Deal.
You know, Jan, they have a saying that when you retire, they kind of put you out to pasture.
Yeah, you know, I never thought that sounded too good.
But at one special retirement farm, I think it's a place you'd like to live out the rest of your days. We're in Georgetown, Kentucky. It's only about a 20-minute drive north of Lexington.
The town's name was created to honor George Washington. You know, most towns have at least a few famous residents, but Georgetown has dozens.
This is Old Friends, a very special retirement farm here in Georgetown, and is the home to some of the most famous racehorses in modern times.
There are horses here that ran in the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, as well as other notable races. They are truly the stars of their sport.
Old Friends founder Michael Blowen makes sure they get the retirement they deserve.
This is Marquetry. He's my favorite. First of all, he earned almost $3 million on the racetrack.
$3 million? Seriously? I mean, I bet he gets a double-wide stall and all the carrots he wants.
And on top of that, he is just as sweet as possibly can be. And he races me every day. He lets me go in the paddock and race him. He's just unbelievable.
Michael was a movie critic for the Boston Globe, and despite the fact that he met lots and lots of movie stars, he was really starstruck with racehorses. But you know what? Some of those guys have been in movies too.
Popcorn Delights played Seabiscuit in the movie. 1 of 8.
Michael, you obviously have a lot of passion for horses. How did you get started in this?
Well, I got started in this, Rodney, when I was working at Suffolk Downs, and I saw at the end of the day the horses that ran their hearts out were going off to slaughter. And so it always occurred to me that they deserved a lot better than that. And
like us.
Exactly. when we're done, what are they going to do with us?
You know, it doesn't take long to see how much Michael loves these horses.
You're the best. Aren't you the best? Without them, there's no racing. You know, they're the stars of the sport. They're the heart and soul of the sport.
In a way, you could call this a living history museum of horse racing.
He's fabulous. He won almost $1 million on the racetrack. He's about $60,000 short. When I finally retired from the Boston Globe, my wife and I decided we'd give it a shot, and we came down to Kentucky in 2001 and never looked back. In 2003, we got our first horse, and now we have 121.
Did he just say 121 horses? Okay, clearly this is Michael's passion. And you know what? Some of these guys were the main event when they were on the track.
For horse racing fans, names like Market Tree, I'm Charismatic, and Sunshine Forever should ring a bell. They all call this place home.
To me, having these famous horses here is almost like having Larry Bird and Michael Jordan in your yard if you're a racing fan, you know.
What's the cumulative earnings of all the horses you have?
It's just over $90 million.
Wow, so that was just the horses you have.
That's right. And if you count how much they generated as breeding stallions in the breeding shed, it's over $1 billion. This is our cemetery, Rodney, and this is where the final stop for these horses. This is Precisionist. He's probably the greatest horse we ever had here. He had 46 lifetime starts, 20 wins, 10 seconds, 4/3, and earned almost $3.5 million just on the track. And he's in the Racing Hall of Fame.
So the horses, once you get them, they really never leave this farm. Even after they die, you bury them here, so they're here forever.
That's correct. You know, and they earned it. Without them, you just have a bunch of short people running around in a circle, and nobody's going to pay to see that, and they're certainly not going to bet on it.
Show me a little more of the farm.
Oh yeah, sure.
The farm is open to the public, and about 20,000 people come every year to get up close to these champions.
Now, thoroughbred racehorses all have tattoos underneath their upper lip to identify them. Can we see your tattoo, please? Thank you.
He's a ham.
Yeah, he is a ham. He's a bigger ham than I am, and that's saying something.
Back when you were betting on horses, did you ever have any luck back then?
Well, I didn't have any luck betting our horses. Financially, it hasn't been that swell.
So you weren't so good at picking winners, but you're real good at picking losers.
I'm very good at picking losers. Prize. Come on, buddy. Want to say hello to everybody? We're really, really grateful that all these people are coming from all over the world to visit these animals.
A little to the left, he says. Maybe I could end up here at the retirement home. Looks pretty good. You know, you could say these guys have horse sense. Are you the best horse here? And they don't horse around when it comes to carrots either.
All right. Shut up and give me carrots. Jeez. I understand horse language. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm a horse screamer. Give me some carrots and be quiet.
Well, I know how to get Rodney quiet, but not with carrots. Hot dog, homemade potato chips, and he's as content as can be.
Oh, Bunny Jam. But I'll tell you what, I'm not the only one motivated by food. Give her a little caramel or cherry pie. It'll be one of the few times you'll see her quiet.
And now, the race between challenger Rodney Miller and Market Tree.
It's gonna be close. I'm not sure who's gonna pull this out, but he's in trouble. He's retired and I'm just about retired. I think it was pretty close. We better check the photo.
You know, Mark Tree always beats me, but he always beats me by a smaller margin than Rodney.
Rodney, you're a pretty good sport. I mean, racing a racehorse, even a retired one.
I know, I didn't have a chance, but Market Tree loves to race. Just look at him. He loves to run. But you know, I have my cowboy boots on. If I'd had my sneakers...
Oh yeah, that'd have made a big difference. It's pretty obvious that these racehorses are a big deal, but so are the volunteers that take care of them.
And the horses themselves just convince you that they are just magnificent animals. They appreciate the human kindness and compassion. And once you are touched in the heart by the hoof of a thoroughbred, you just can't ever lose it.
You're such a star. You know that? You're such a star.
What's the greatest reward you receive from this?
Getting up every morning and feeding these horses when there's nobody here but me and them and my wife Diane, and we go around and feed these horses, and you see the expressions on their face and you see them running around and you think, well, maybe if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be doing this. That's really all you need.
It really is a big deal what Michael and his wife are doing. It would have broken my heart to see all those horses destroyed.
You know what made me sad is you weren't there, because you probably would have kissed every horse there at least once.
Oh, 3 or 4 times.
I'm sure you would have. You know, and it was my first Civil War reenactment.
I was going to ask, what was it like when the cannons went off?
I jumped every time, but you know, so did the little kids, so I didn't feel too bad.
Hey, thanks for joining us, and be sure to check out our Facebook page and like us, and our Small Town Big Deal store, too.
Join us again next week when once again we celebrate the great stories from across America. And you can tell a lot of the guys around here have not had a shower in a few days.
I haven't.
I'm downwind from 7,000 soldiers who haven't showered in several days. Now that's authentic.
You just eat it like that? No frying pan? Nothing? Blech. 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 I'm done with my ugly faces. Are you rolling?
I am now.
3.
That wasn't even hard.
That was too hard. It was hard. Was it hard, Roger, or what?
That is
hard.
not hard.
It sounded hard.
Yeah, it was hard. My breath went almost to him. I was not expecting it.
Just for everybody at home, you deserved it.
And I came across a group of refugees that were fleeing from the ravages of war. You better not have been laughing before that ended, because I got it right.